You thought his rejection was the end of the story, that when he said, "I'm not ready," or "I don't feel the same," it closed the book. But here's the truth. It didn't end anything. It just opened a new chapter, not for him, but for you. Because in the moments that followed his rejection, you didn't scream, you didn't beg, and you didn't try to change his mind. You went silent. And that silence, that's the part he didn't see coming. He expected a reaction. He expected tears, long messages, maybe even a desperate attempt to win him back. But instead, you gave him nothing. And that nothing is louder than any words you could have spoken. It echoes in his mind, lingers in his thoughts, and slowly chips away at the certainty he once had when he let you go. This is not about playing games. This is about power. The kind that comes when you finally realize your worth is not up for debate. Your silence isn't emptiness, it's self-respect. And believe it or not, it's the very thing that's starting to haunt him. Because when a woman walks away with grace, with dignity, and without a single attempt to chase, he feels it. Now let's talk about why that silence is slowly breaking him down more than your words ever could. He thought he had all the control when he said those words, "I'm not ready. I don't think we're on the same page," or "It's not you, it's me." He believed that would be the final note in the story. What he didn't anticipate was your silence. He didn't expect you to walk away without resistance, without a tearful goodbye, without some last-minute attempt to make him stay. And that silence, that quiet withdrawal of your energy, your attention, your affection, that's what's destroying him now. Because what he doesn't understand is that rejection doesn't take your power away. In fact, it often gives it back to you. The moment you stop investing your time, your thoughts, and your emotional bandwidth in someone who doesn't value you, you regain your strength. It might not feel that way at first. The sting of rejection hurts. It shakes your confidence, makes you question your worth, and leaves you wondering if you could have done something differently. But when you don't act on those emotions, when you hold your silence instead of reaching out, you begin to shift the dynamic entirely. See, most people believe that the one who walks away has the upper hand. But what if you didn't chase? What if you didn't argue or try to convince him otherwise? That's where the real shift happens. Because your silence is not weakness, it's power in its purest form. It's the bold declaration that says, "I don't need to be chosen to know I'm worthy." And once you understand that, something incredible happens. You stop needing closure because your silence becomes the closure. And now he's sitting there, expecting to feel relief. Expecting the usual aftermath of a breakup where he gets to breathe easy while you process the pain. But instead, he's uneasy. Because silence doesn't tell him anything. It doesn't confirm that you're still holding on. It doesn't give him the satisfaction of knowing you're waiting in the background, hoping he'll change his mind. Your silence leaves him in the dark, and that darkness is more tormenting than any emotional outburst could ever be. He checks his phone, nothing. He scrolls through his feed, wondering if you're still watching his stories. You're not. He goes to bed at night, wondering if he made the right call. You're not there to reassure him. There's no drama, no attention, no reaction. And that's where it starts to unravel for him. Because people expect to be missed loudly. They expect tears, phone calls, and a chase that feeds their ego. But when you disappear into the calm of your own self-worth, he doesn't get that fix. And here's the thing, it's not about punishing him. This isn't revenge. It's a form of protection for yourself. It's what happens when you finally stop giving your voice, your energy, your vulnerability to someone who didn't handle them with care. Silence becomes a boundary. It's not that you don't feel things, it's that you've chosen not to perform them for someone who walked away. And that choice, that's what's haunting him now. Because deep down, he knows what he gave up. Maybe not immediately, maybe not the day he ended things, but over time, the silence starts to reveal things words never could. He starts to remember the way you listened, the way you cared, the way your presence made his life softer, lighter, more whole. But he doesn't get access to that anymore, not because you're punishing him, but because you're protecting the part of yourself that doesn't beg to be seen. He thought rejecting you would be the final move, but your silence turned it into the opening of a new game. One where you're no longer on the board. And now he's playing against himself. He's revisiting conversations, wondering if he misread you. He's second-guessing his decision, confused by the fact that you didn't try to change his mind. That's what silence does. It creates space for reflection. And reflection creates discomfort when someone knows they've lost something valuable. The more time passes, the more your silence speaks. It says, I was always enough, even when you couldn't see it. It says, I don't need to fight for a place in someone's life. And it says, I choose peace over chaos. That kind of message lingers. It doesn't fade like an angry text or a desperate voicemail. It settles into the corners of his mind and it starts to eat away at his certainty. He may have rejected you, but your silence is what truly ended things. It's what closed the door without slamming it. It's what told him, in the clearest way possible, that you don't exist in someone's maybe. You only exist where you're seen, valued, and wanted. That kind of energy doesn't beg. It doesn't chase. It doesn't wait around for someone to realize your worth after they've walked away. And so now he's the one left in the silence. You've moved forward, not loudly, not dramatically, but with grace. You've stepped into a version of yourself that doesn't need to prove anything. And in doing so, you've left behind the echo of a woman who didn't need to scream to be heard. That echo is what's killing him. When he rejected you, he expected a scene. He expected tears, confusion, and maybe even a desperate attempt to hold on. He expected your heart to shatter and for you to make it known through your words, your texts, your presence, that you still cared, that you still wanted him, that you couldn't just walk away. Because that's what most people do. Most people react, they cry, they plead, they ask why. And when you didn't, when you stayed calm and quiet and chose to give him nothing, that was the moment. He started to feel the shift. Because men expect a reaction. It's how their ego processes the impact of rejection. When you fight to stay, it validates that they had something valuable. When you cry, it tells them they mattered. When you reach out again after they've let you go, it feeds the part of them that wants to believe they're unforgettable. But when you do none of that, when you go silent, they don't get the ending they scripted in their minds, and that disorients them. There's something deeply unsettling about not getting the reaction you expected, and for someone who thought he had the upper hand by walking away, your silence flips the entire dynamic on its head. It introduces doubt where there was once certainty. It forces him to question if maybe, just maybe, he didn't matter as much as he assumed. Or worse, that you had the strength to walk away from him faster than he thought possible. Because whether he admits it or not, he thought you'd chase, maybe not right away, but eventually. He thought your absence would be temporary, that you'd come around, check in, or send a "just wondering how you're doing" message. He was waiting for the aftermath, the emotional fallout that makes most people feel needed and important, even after they leave. But what he got instead was silence, and that silence has a weight to it. It's not just the absence of words. It's the absence of your energy. The absence of your curiosity about his life. The absence of your voice in his world. And without all of that, without the validation he didn't even realize he was counting on, he starts to feel the emptiness. Not just because you're gone, but because you didn't fight to stay. He doesn't understand how you can be so composed, how you didn't lash out, accuse him, or try to negotiate your worth, how you didn't try to prove that you were the right choice. That calm, controlled silence unnerves him because it sends a message he wasn't ready to hear, that you value yourself too much to beg for love. And here's the part he really didn't expect. Your silence makes him feel rejected too. Because when someone rejects you and you respond with nothing, it removes their role as the final authority. It takes away the illusion that they get to decide your worth. He may have ended things, but your lack of response ends the power he thought he had over you. Suddenly, he's checking his phone more often than he wants to admit. He's scrolling through your social media, wondering what you're thinking, how you're feeling, and whether you're already moving on. He thought he would feel free, but instead, he feels forgotten. And that cuts deeper than he imagined. Because what stings the most isn't just the silence. It's what the silence implies. It implies that you've accepted his decision without resistance. It implies that you're not waiting in the background hoping he changes his mind. It implies that you might not have needed him as much as he thought you did, and for someone whose ego was relying on your heartbreak to feel justified, that implication is hard to digest. And so, little by little, your silence becomes a mirror. It reflects back to him everything he wasn't ready to see. It makes him question his choice, not because you're manipulating him or trying to make him feel guilty, but because in the absence of noise, his own thoughts are all he has left, and those thoughts start turning inward. Was I too quick to let her go? Did I misunderstand what we had? Why isn't she reacting? He expected to be the one in control. But now he's the one left wondering if he misjudged your connection, wondering if he made a mistake, wondering if you're really gone for good. And all of that wondering, it's not driven by your words, your explanations, or any dramatic exit. It's driven by the space you left behind. That space is loud. It's filled with the realization that he no longer has access to you, that he doesn't get to hear from you, see you, or feel that gentle familiarity anymore. And because there was no closure, no final breakdown or emotional unraveling, he doesn't know how to process it. Your silence takes away the easy narrative. It forces him to sit with the consequences of his decision without the comforting belief that you're still attached. And when a man loses both your presence and the ego boost that comes from your attention, the impact is twice as hard. So while he thought rejection would give him freedom, it's actually given him doubt. While he expected you to fall apart, you held yourself together. And while he anticipated a reaction, your silence gave him the one thing he couldn't prepare for: distance that doesn't beg to be closed. That silence now lives in the corners of his day, in the still moments, in the nights when he checks his phone and sees nothing from you, in the way your name doesn't appear in his notifications anymore. And with each quiet day that passes, that silence only gets heavier. There's a common misconception that silence means weakness, that not speaking up, not reacting, not chasing means you've given up. But in truth, silence is one of the strongest moves you can make after someone rejects you. Because silence, when used intentionally, is not about avoidance. It's about clarity. It's a boundary. A declaration of self-worth that doesn't need an audience or an explanation. It's you saying, without words, I know who I am, and I know what I deserve. Most people respond to rejection with desperation. They try to understand why. They seek answers. They cling to the hope that maybe the other person will reconsider. But when you respond with silence, you separate yourself from that pattern. You show that your value is not dependent on whether someone accepts or rejects you, that you are not defined by the way someone else sees you. Silence becomes your statement. It says everything you need to say without handing over your dignity. Because when someone rejects you, the truth is they expect access. They may say it's over, but a part of them often still wants to feel desired. They expect to linger in your heart. They expect you to still check in, to still be available, to still think about them. That's the subtle dynamic that often gets overlooked. Rejection doesn't always come with a clean break. Sometimes it comes with an unspoken assumption that you'll still be there in some way for their comfort, their ego, or their curiosity. But when you go silent, you break that assumption. You remove the option of emotional convenience. You are no longer available to be his soft place to land after he's walked away. And that, more than anything, signals high value. It tells him that you don't exist in someone's grey area. You are not the person someone returns to out of boredom or loneliness. You are the person who knows her worth, even when someone else doesn't see it clearly. Silence, in this way, becomes the ultimate mirror. It reflects who you are without needing validation. And that reflection is powerful. Because while he may have expected a version of you that begged to stay, what he's now faced with is someone who respects herself too much to explain her worth to someone who couldn't see it on his own. That's not cold, that's confidence. That's emotional maturity. That's grace. And here's the part that hits him hardest. Silence means you're not waiting. It means you've accepted what is, and you're not holding space for someone who couldn't hold space for you. It means you're not in limbo, hoping for a change of heart. You're moving forward, not with bitterness, but with peace. And peace is powerful, especially in a world where so many people react with chaos. He notices that peace. It shows up in the absence of your attention. It shows up in the way you don't text him, don't watch his stories, don't ask how he's doing. It shows up in your energy being directed inward toward healing, growth, and wholeness. That's the kind of silence that speaks volumes. It says, I've released you. Not because I didn't care, but because I care about myself more. And he feels that. Maybe not all at once, but over time. At first, he might assume you're just trying to make a point. He might think your silence is temporary, a strategy, something designed to get his attention. But the longer it lasts, the more he starts to realize it's not a performance. It's your new reality. You're not pretending to be okay. You are okay. And that's what unnerves him. Because in his mind, someone who loved him the way you did should be stuck, should be waiting, should be watching from a distance, hoping he comes back around. But you're not. You've disconnected, not out of spite, but out of wisdom. You've chosen not to be an option. You've chosen not to be the what if he can revisit when other things don't work out. And that kind of silence, that kind of removal, it forces him to confront what he lost. It's no longer about the relationship or the rejection. It's about the absence of your energy. It's about the realization that you loved him in a way that was steady, kind, and real, and that he no longer has access to that. Not because you punished him, but because you understand that love, when not reciprocated, doesn't need to stay. And so your silence becomes sacred. It protects your heart. It restores your power. It gives you room to rebuild, not from a place of lack, but from a place of wholeness. And as you do that, something subtle happens. He starts to see you differently. Not because you've changed who you are, but because you've revealed your strength in a way that only silence can. He may never say it out loud. He may never tell you that your silence shook him more than your words ever could. But he'll feel it. In the moments he remembers your calm. In the days he wonders if you still think about him. In the quiet spaces where he once expected your attention but now only finds distance. And by the time he realizes what he let go of, you'll have already moved beyond needing that realization. Because your silence wasn't just the absence of communication, it was the presence of self-respect. It was the decision to choose yourself. And that decision, more than any conversation you could have had, speaks the loudest. He didn't expect to feel anything. That's the truth. When he ended things with you, in his mind, he believed he was making a clean break. That he'd walk away, maybe feel a little guilty, maybe miss you for a moment, but ultimately go back to life as usual. He thought he'd move on quickly. That your presence would fade quietly, like background noise he could silence at will. But what he didn't account for was the impact of your complete disappearance. He didn't realize how much he depended on your attention until it was gone. He assumed you'd linger. Maybe not physically, but emotionally. He expected to feel you in the margins of his day, still watching, still wondering, still caring from a distance. That's what many people subconsciously count on after a breakup. The security of knowing that even if they walked away, someone still wants them. But you didn't play that part. You didn't wait around for him to change his mind. You didn't leave the door half open. You vanished quietly, completely. And now that silence is making more noise in his mind than anything you ever said. In the beginning, he tried to stay distracted. He told himself he made the right decision. Maybe he even started seeing someone else, thinking he could replace the connection, numb the discomfort. But the truth is, no distraction can fill the space you once occupied. No temporary excitement can replicate the depth of someone who genuinely saw him. And slowly, what he thought would be easy starts to sting. He checks his phone, no message, no sign you're still lingering in his world. He scrolls through social media, hoping to see something that tells him you still care. But you're not there. You're not watching. You're not engaging. You've removed your attention completely. And that, more than anything, is breaking through the confidence he once had. Because attention is addictive. Your energy, your kindness, the way you made him feel seen. That wasn't ordinary. That wasn't replaceable. And now that it's gone, now that there's a void where your presence used to be, he's starting to feel it in ways he can't explain. It's not dramatic, it's subtle. It's in the quiet moments, the unspoken thoughts, the realization that the comfort of your care has vanished without a trace. He underestimated how much your presence mattered. He thought he could end things and keep the idea of you alive in the background like a safety net he could fall back on if things didn't go the way he expected. But that safety net is gone. You're not available anymore. You didn't ask questions. You didn't plead. You didn't make him feel like he was the center of your universe. You just disappeared. And that's what's eating at him now. Because what hurts isn't just that you're gone. It's how peacefully you left. You didn't fight. You didn't beg. You didn't give him the satisfaction of seeing you break. That kind of quiet strength is powerful. It sends a message he can't ignore. It says, I know my worth, and I won't hand it to someone who didn't recognize it. And now, in the absence of your validation, he's left with himself, with his decision, with the weight of everything he gave up. He's remembering the little things, the way you looked at him, the way you supported him, the way you made him feel when he was around you. He thought he could replace it. But the truth is, you were never just someone to pass time with. You were real, and real doesn't just disappear without leaving a mark. The pain he's feeling now isn't about losing the relationship. It's about losing your attention, the warmth of being cared for, the security of being wanted. And the hardest part for him, he doesn't have the option to get it back. He didn't leave a trail. You didn't leave a window open. You left with dignity, with silence, and with boundaries. And those boundaries are what's hurting him now more than anything. He's realizing he can't just walk back into your life. He can't just send a casual text and expect you to respond. Because your silence wasn't just an absence, it was a decision. A choice to protect your peace. A choice to stop pouring love into someone who didn't know how to hold it. And that choice, that's what makes him feel the loss even more. He may not admit it. He may pretend to be fine. But deep down, the pain of losing your attention is louder than he expected. Because it wasn't just about the relationship, it was about what your love represented. Safety, depth, loyalty. And now that he doesn't have that, everything else feels a little more empty. He's haunted by the fact that he didn't get to keep a piece of you, that you didn't leave the door open for him to return, that you didn't offer one last chance for him to reconsider. And now, in the silence you left behind, he's starting to feel the very thing he thought he'd avoid: regret. You didn't scream. You didn't cry in front of him. You didn't beg him to stay. And because of that, he thought you didn't care as deeply as he expected. But now he understands. You cared deeply. You just chose not to fight for someone who wasn't willing to choose you. And that quiet, graceful exit, that's the part he can't forget. So while he thought walking away would set him free, it's your silence that's holding him captive now. It's your decision not to give him the closure he expected. It's your absence that's making him feel the full weight of what he lost. And by the time he realizes what your attention truly meant, you'll be long gone, healing, thriving, and loving yourself in the way he couldn't.